Hello everyone. So today we're going to do a live podcast recording, and by live I don't mean it's live stream, so don't panic. It will be edited and published in the usual way, but live is in with a live audience, which hopefully is going to get bigger and bigger. So for the listeners, just for context, it's lunchtime now, so everyone's queuing up for lunch. And so if there's background noise as people come in, I do apologise.
There are people in the room.
Yes, I'm aware we're in England and English people aren't very loud, but I'm going to give this a go anyway. Can I have a big cheer from the audience? Oh, that was impressive. I wasn't expecting that, actually.
It's in Bristol. We're different.
People. None of your AI generators.
I was going to say, so don't have to generate AI cheering or audience stuff. So, for the listeners' benefit, a bit of context. To paint a picture, we're in a conference room at the DDD conference, which we did similar 2 years ago. So I'll include a link to that episode in the show notes. And the topic today is going to be, can anyone guess what the topic's going to be?
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. When we did it 2 years ago, the topic was anything developer-y, but it kind of naturally became a lot of AI. But now the world's completely changed, so it's going to be explicitly AI for software developers. For context for the listeners, we've got a typical conference room with an audience, and we've got 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I thought we had 7. So we've got 7 panel members, including myself, because I'll join in. So there we go, we've got the 7. And in a bit, I'll pass to each panel member to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about what they do, and also if everyone can tell us what your go-to coding agent is. But now I'm going to hand over to Carl Sagener, who's been on the show before and also was included 2 years ago in this one, so a few times, to a bit of an elevator pitch about what DDD is all about.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan. And thanks to all of you for coming along today. Hope you're enjoying the conference. DDD has been running, this is our 21st year of DDD conferences and 13th year of DDD South West, I believe, if I'm not sure. It's been a while. I personally have been involved for 4 or 5 years now, volunteering first and then kind of joined the committee, and we're always looking for people to help out. So if you came to any of the talks today about being involved with the community, this is where it's about. We're a free conference. We do it on a Saturday. The people who come here are the ones who are really, really keen and interested because you're giving up your free time to come to a conference. You're not being sent by your work. You're here because you're the interested audience that everyone kind of wants to talk to. We're supported by sponsors. We couldn't do this without them, but also by fantastic speakers who give up their time to come along on days like this. And people like Dan who bring their podcast along and to record the event. So I'm going to hand you back to Dan. Thank you very much for all coming.
Thank you, Carl. Yeah, just once a massive thank you for everything you do with the conferences, because as you say, it's weekend free. So many volunteers give up the time to do this, so it's absolutely incredible. Can we have a big round of applause for all the volunteers? I still can't get over the cheer I had before, actually. I was quite surprised about that. So now I'm just going to hand over to each of the members of the panel. Oh, before I forget, actually, because Carl's just reminded me, if anyone can take lots of pictures throughout and share them, that would be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to hand over to each of the panel members, introduce yourself, short summary, and what AI coding agent is your go-to, if any.
Hi, so I'm Stuart Caborn. I'm Distinguished Engineer at Love Holidays. I lead the Centre of Excellence for Platform Technology, and we've been very busy rolling out agentic development for the last year and a quarter now. If you'd asked me a month ago, that would have been Claude, but I'm now cheating on Claude and I'm with Codex, and we're getting to know each other. Sorry.
It's a good job that AI does not have consciousness, emotions, and things like envy and stuff like that. Otherwise, we would be entering the end times. Hi, my name's Kevlin Henney. I'm an independent. I do training, workshops, advise people on various bits and pieces, and ramble at great length. And I don't have a favoured one. That gets me out of any infidelity clauses. I'm happy to experiment with most things. I'm not, as it were, committed or tied into anybody's particular code base. So the commitment level from my part, I have not taken any vows for or against any particular LLM. So I'm a free agent and I just cruise between them, just messing things up, or messing about with them. No, messing things up.
Hi, I'm Lottie Pitcher. I'm Head of Developer Relations at Umbraco, a AV.NET open source CMS. Why not? I am committed because my company gives me tokens, so I use what I call Uncle Claude. Although obviously we shouldn't give it a personality. Claude is my AI agent of not choice work.
Hi, I'm Richard Fennell. I'm the CTO at Black Marble. We're an integration company up in Yorkshire, been going 30 years. So we take all your old weird legacy things and write a nice front end over the front of it. So try and help people modernise. I spend most of my time actually consulting with companies around their engineering processes. So I'm seeing all sorts of different AI adoptions and not adoptions, as you may put it. As to a favourite, well, we use GitHub Copilot, so we have the option of swapping between different models a lot. I'm probably using Claude the most, but I'm experimenting more with their auto feature because it's got a discount. Discounts are good. So lots of randomness is probably my current choice.
Hi, I'm Rachel Breeze. I work at Nexa Digital. We are a digital agency and I am development practice lead there, and my agent of choice is Claude.
Hi all, I'm Shadhali. I'm a master's student at University of Bristol, and my go-to is Perplexity. Not a lot of people would have heard it. It's a good research tool, but it in turn uses ChatGPT.
That's cool. So you know that anyone that didn't say Claude, you know who to not take seriously, or I'm joking. I like Uncle Claude. I'm going to start using that. That's really good. So the way it's going to work, I'm going to open up with a question, and it's an open question. Well, it's not. The first one isn't an open question, but treat it as an open question. Don't just say yes or no. Are you worried that AI is going to take your job? Very open. Who would like it?
I'm not worried yet. I was worried a year ago, I think. We've come to realise now, certainly my point of view, is the most interesting work that I do and the thing that I find really fulfilling is, for example, the time around a whiteboard solving a problem creatively with a group of like minds. And so far, our statistical model can't do that. If it can, then the world will change. But for now, that's not where we are. I'm endeavouring to get it just to take away all the things that I don't find as much fun and get those out of my way and free me up to do what I really like, which is just solving problems. So.
I don't know what I do, so I'm not entirely sure that that's a vulnerable position. Yeah, so I think that exactly as you just mentioned, about a year ago, a lot of people were very worried because it was unclear. I think a number of people still are worried because there is a thing called AIRD, AI replacement dysfunction. It's not a fully diagnosed DSM condition, but it has started being used as the anxiety, the ambient anxiety that many people across many disciplines, we're not just talking software development, have experienced about the role of AI. And from everything that I can see is that, and I started saying this about 2-3 years ago, your job is safe. In software development, your job is safe. Your job may end up looking really different, but your job is safe because it turns out that the ability for people to be able to create at greater speed vast amounts of software, whether they name themselves software developers or not, the probability that's going to reduce the demand for software developers is pretty much close to zero, and we know this through hundreds of years of technology adoption. It generally happens that when technology rolls out, you don't end, people sort of say, oh my God, the spreadsheet is going to kill off accountants. Do you remember that? It was the late 70s, early 80s. There are no more accountants here in 2026. Exactly the opposite. There are more accountants now than ever. My older son is just qualifying as one just to prove the point. The point there is that what you do is you end up driving up the demand. You change the landscape. It moves in other ways. People's tasks shift, and what people want from software developers and software development tends to be slightly different. So we are not simply automating the world of 2020, the early 2020s. We're reshaping it, and it turns out you need to know how to solve problems. You need to have the people skills. You need to actually have taste and judgment on what you are building. It turns out unmanaged technical debt at speed is not really that good.
I possibly come at this from a slightly different angle, because it's not so much about will I still have a job, it's will the product that the company that I work at, will that still exist? Because I hear a lot about it's the AI is the death of SaaS. Because if we can all just roll our own solutions, then why do we need to use someone else's? And I agree on sort of for small libraries, yes, why would we bother? But I mean, I truly believe that the complicated, sophisticated systems will flourish, because why would you go and replicate something like Umbraco? It is a complicated tool that does a lot of things. It's incredibly flexible, and it has years of contributions from around the world and all sorts of different people. And so my view is, as long as, Embraco is going to exist, then we need the people around it. That's a fundamental part of our ecosystem, and therefore my job in developer relations and caring about the people is safe. So yeah, that's my point of view.
Given my role is mostly going out consulting about using tools, lots of new tools is good. I don't think my role's going to disappear, but sort of reframing the question, I think where you're coming from, will the job of what it means to be a software engineer now change? Yes, but it always has. Our industry's constantly been changing. Very few of us probably crack open a hex editor and write a bit of machine code these days, or assembler. And this is a big inflection point. This feels like as big an inflection point as when we stopped writing assembler and started using C. But it will affect some people. I certainly go out to organisations and I do see people who are completely, it was in the first talk today, is anybody here completely rejecting the use of AI tools? And I do see a small subset of people, and it's not always the people who've got grey hair like me. Sometimes it's young engineers who are going, no, I can write it better, I will handcraft it, it will be beautiful. And they've always existed in our industry, and they've always been able to survive. I don't know how much longer they can survive, because they need to be around the whiteboard talking to humans rather than sitting at their code, crafting that beautiful line of code. So yeah, it's going to change everybody's jobs, but there will still be a role for us.
I think there will be a role for handcrafters. If you think of AI as the Industrial Revolution and how we moved from building wardrobes, say, or carpentry one at a time, and moved into mass production, there is still a place for carpenters, if we use that analogy. So I think there will still be a place for handcrafters. I think AI for everyone changes our jobs. The people like me who specialise in back-end development will need to learn front-end to understand the outputs that are coming through there. And I think everyone will move into more of a systems engineering role. And I think we might accidentally become employers of agents as well, which is an interesting concept. But that's where I think we'll be going.
If you look at entry level, as a fresher who's going to be fresh in 6 months, I would say the demand of the job has changed. Nobody wants entry level. If you look at any job description, it goes like you need to know AI or all the tools that you're using. So I would say people who are already in the SD levels or developers backend, if they're early adopters, they can adopt very well. Even we as students, we use a lot of AI, we use building, but SaaS or the AWS, everything is necessary. That won't be changed, but that doesn't mean you have to be a cloud developer or you have to be an ML developer. You can adopt, I would say, but it is definitely trickier. But then again, it's based on what interests you. How are you going to do it? Are you going to just use AI as a coding supporter, or are you going to actually build it from scratch? So new roles are there, I would say. So it has replaced few roles.
So for me, one thing I've observed is that I'm using AI, like I use Claude Code, but I use it very, very heavily. And it's writing code 100 times, 1,000 times faster than I could possibly do it. But I'm not 100 times, 1,000 times more productive. As in, every day, I'm not getting through 1,000 times more user stories in the backlog. We've still got backlog items, we've still got work. I'm still working 8 hours a day. So even with that massive productivity increase where it's just writing code that would have taken me forever to do, I'm still working full time. So that's quite interesting. Another thing I've observed is that I am doing things that building stuff I wouldn't have been able to begun to justify previously. So like lots of tools that are just helping stuff, hobby projects, and just building so much more. So I think if the level of stuff we were building was staying the same, then a lot of people would be out of jobs. But we are going to build so much more. It's interesting, Rachel, you mentioned about system engineers, I think you said. But I wrote a blog post recently where saying developers are system thinkers. And we're not just code monkeys, we work with systems. And your code base is a system made up of different classes, modules, and all stuff. Your database is part of a system, your message broker, Jira, all of these things are systems that all talk to each other. The world revolves around systems, but we've been working with systems for years. Who better to do most jobs than developers. So I think anyone that's good at system thinking is not going to be short of a job. The next question is, do you still handwrite code ever at all, or do you just let AI do it all? I'm going to go start from this side now.
I should probably not say this. Other than my college work, I use AI for everything because I'm not allowed to use for my college work. But I would say, since most of my work around building of AI, I have a vision, I have a design, what I want, and I let AI build it and I test the model, how it's working. If I don't like something, I'm going to change. But one of the things I've noticed is if I'm building a model, I don't like the accuracy of what it's doing. And if I say this is wrong, it tries to build itself and it goes like, you know what, use this data. It's going to give 100% result. But that's not might be what I want. But AI is going to make me trick into believing that whatever the code is right. And I've noticed it so many times. So I would say even if I let AI do all my job, I still have to make sure that it's not using some kind of loopholes where it's adding all the information and giving me the good results.
Yes, because why would I give up something I really enjoy?
Good point. Yes, I still do code, but it tends to be during debugging. It's quite often I've got some code that's been generated. It's not quite working right. I look at it and go, I can see what the fault is there, but I can't for the life of me work out what prompt I've got to tell the AI to fix that little bit of, I'll just dive in and I'll fix it. And then the AI will get confused going on and remove it later, of course, but then I'll keep putting it back. But still hand coding, but mostly in debugging.
I've been sitting here trying to think when I last wrote a line of code. 2025 maybe. I mean, I don't generate code that often, to be fair, but for me, I'm definitely in the AI boost place where, because I don't do it so often, it is so much more efficient than I could ever be. And in terms of working on projects that I haven't looked at for a long time, why would I? Because it is trained on this stuff and my brain is getting older. So no would have been the short answer. I don't.
You're a young person though, Lottie.
Too slow.
That's age. That's age. You see, I'm older, so it's a little bit slow getting there. I'm going to go with Rachel's answer. Now, of course, my main job is not to write code, but when I do, I find I've got a bit of a mix. I sort of go with the flow of some things. And honestly, sometimes it's just enjoying it because that's where I'm doing the thinking. Because for me, code has always been a form of specification. And I have a to and fro relationship between how I put it into words, how I put it into code, how I put it into tests. So what AI has done is given me another way to kind of attack that. So sometimes I'll generate something, I'll look at that and go, yes, I could exactly sit here and try and, prompt, nudge, shove, kick. And it's just like, except that I know how to do this properly. There's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know how to do, but you happen to be in my wheelhouse. Get out the way. But also sometimes the very act of working through that is the bit that makes you go, I get it. I didn't want any of this at all. I now truly understand the problem. Delete, start again, either with a prompt or with some code. So for me, it's another way of bringing in my thoughts, because for me, coding has always been a thinking activity. So I've just got another way of expressing it, but I'm not going to I'm not going to stop any of the existing ways. But I don't necessarily have to do it in that sense. So my answer needs to be taken with that pinch of salt.
I think SQL was the first language to go. I stopped typing SQL in September, but I have always been awful at SQL. So, and when I realized that now the AI could do it far better than me, then I sort of sat back and treated it as a helper. I've stopped typing other syntax. I think from November onwards, it largely just sort of fell away, and it's sort of like a break glass experience now. It's like, like just get out of the way, do it like this. Do you see the pattern? But that will now just be like you would be on sketching it to someone. You do enough code to get the gist across again, because I can communicate better with like a language that has syntax that's precise, whereas if I type words. But it's normally sort of if the output from Claude or Codex isn't what I want, and that is to me now becoming more of so am I not describing clearly what the problem is, or do I not understand clearly because it's going off in this direction? And that then becomes actually maybe I haven't specified my problem properly, in the sense that in here I haven't built a model that I can clearly describe. And in Lottie's talk that I'm becoming better at communicating in other ways because I have to explain to this thing, and the only way is to type or to speak. And I find that that's sort of changing the way I'm thinking about design. And it's like with anything, if you learn a different spoken language or a programming language, it changes how you think and how you problem solve, and that's super valuable. I think learning to speak in English to drive code generation isn't something I've really consciously practiced before this year, and I'm quite enjoying that journey at the minute. It's really interesting.
Sorry, I have just remembered. CSS. I write that myself a lot more. It feels slightly immoral to waste Planet resources to change 6 pixels to 7 pixels when I know exactly where it is. And so CSS I still do. I just felt the need to stand up for myself there, sorry.
But surely a 30 minutes of prompting could change that 6 to a 7. Is that...
Now Planet's resources have come up, I feel guilty about what I'm going to say next, but to answer the initial question about writing code, I don't write code at all now. And to go on with what Rachel said about why would you stop doing something you love, I thought I would hate the fact that I don't write code anymore. And then I've kind of learned that it wasn't coding I loved in the first place, it was building stuff. It was working with tools and systems and all of that kind of stuff, planning stuff, orchestrating it. And I found with, even like you're mentioning about you've got to come up with a prompt to actually drive that code base. I'm finding, because I actually use a library called OpenSpec within Claude Code, it can work with any of the agents. And you actually end up I'm not writing the prompt that generates the code, I'm having a conversation with the model, and OpenSpec it's quizzing me, asking me questions, it's looking at the code base, it's looking at the problem, it's using MCP servers to pull from Jira the full acceptance criteria, it's looking at the code, it's asking me questions, and it's a brainstorming session with the agent. And the OpenSpec skill that starts that exploration phase is actually very, very good. So it really does look for any gaps in your requirements, any things. And so I go through that phase, then when it's happy that there's no gaps and it understands everything, it's giving me a few options with diagrams showing, do you prefer this architecture or this architecture? So it asks me questions, and then it creates a proposal, and then it applies it and it implements it. So, and I found that workflow has been absolutely incredible. I'm just building so much more, and I'm not really seeing the issues that I saw a year or so ago where it was creating rubbish. It's actually creating really good stuff now. So yeah. The next question is, when you do use AI to generate stuff, do you review every line of code? And I'm going to start in the middle this time.
It very much depends on whether anyone else cares about the code or not. I do a fair bit of, I think, fancy term, hyper-personalized apps. Don't look at those one line of code at all. If it works, that's all I need it to do. If I'm contributing to something in public, hell yeah. I mean, that's scary, putting your code out there. It's even more scary if you go and put AI code out there that you haven't looked at because your name is against it. So I definitely look at things that are going into the into public, that's for sure.
Yeah, probably a very similar answer. Anything that's production code goes through a PR, it's looked at by humans. We are experimenting with using AIs to do a first pass review. In the sense it's just another automated tool. We're already running things like SonarQube and Snick against all of our code. So, but for little throwaway tools that I'm effectively almost vibe coding, I'm probably not going to look at every single line. I'm going to look at the general trend of the software, but I'm not going to go, oh yes, no, yes, or I don't like that variable. But broadly, production code definitely, less so for hacking around stuff.
I think I echo what everyone else has said. Production code always. Stuff that I'm doing for myself, not so much. Yeah.
I don't work with production codes, but if I am building like a mini project or a website building with backend, I don't know front-end programming, so I use completely AI and I don't touch the code. But when I'm building, either it's my model or my backend or the working, I would say I code and then I make sure AI do not mess anything up. So.
Yeah, very similar. I think if it's production code, especially if it's going into another team's repo, then I'll read every line. If it's going into my team's repo, it depends how well we've got guardrails in place to measure the quality and suitableness. So it's it's a risk reward thing. I'm reading the code quicker now and again. We're using we're writing our own skills, we're using tooling to help review and accelerate the process, and there's value in that because the AIs are finding things that we're missing, and humans have an attention tiring. It's a failure mode of us when we're reviewing other people's work, and that is someone else's work when you're at a certain level of detachment, and so are you reading it as carefully as you will. So I think over time, I think I'm going to read less and less as we gain confidence that it's doing a good job, but it has to prove itself first. At the minute, we don't trust it enough.
As my role is not really to create production code, my answer differs only a little bit, actually. Funnily enough, the theme is to do with accountability. If it's got my name on, if I'm producing demo code to teach somebody else about a particular design approach or design technique, then I do not want to be the person that I saw standing up in a talk a couple of years ago who sort of said, oh yeah, this code is AI generated, I don't really know what it does. And it's like, dude, don't put it on the slide. Because the reason it's on the slide is because you're trying to show us and you're trying to teach us. But if you're not trying to teach us, then I'm getting mixed messages here. So if that is the point, then it needs to have your eyeballs on it because it's got your name on it, if it leads like that. But that notion of like, yeah, if it doesn't really matter, if you're just messing about and the blast radius is you, then it's perhaps a little less important.
Yeah, I think my answer is kind of very similar. So for clients I work with, we go through the PR review process, and yeah, each line gets looked at. For my own, like everyone's using the term in production as well, but my own hobby stuff has got a concept of production. But again, I'm just now not looking at the code at all, but I'm making sure that it writes more test coverage than I could ever begin to write. So it's writing unit test, integration test, playwright test, and it's just doing it all on its own. So I'm getting a lot of confidence from those tests. But yeah, so with clients, definitely I'm looking at every line of code. But I wonder how long before that stops happening, and as an industry, we don't decompile and read assembler. Is programming language just going to become the next assembler?
Yeah, that's, I was about to say. Yeah, I have a whole talk, 90-minute talk on future programming language, don't worry.
Well, I'm actually quite scared because my next question was about programming languages, and I'm a bit worried about passing.
Pass to somebody else.
So the next question is, given that if AI is generating the code and we're kind of like less and less even reading the code ourselves to review it, and we're letting AI review it, what's going to happen to, as an example, I'm a .NET developer. Every November they release a new version, and in the past it's like, oh, what this by and things. I couldn't give a damn what features because I'm not writing it. So like the next one is it union types? They've got that, but I would have loved that if I was writing the code, but now I'm not writing the code. So why does it matter? I'm probably not the only person that thinks that way, as in more and more people, like the less people write. So where's the incentive for language developers to progress languages? So what's going to happen? Are we going to end up in a bubble where actually languages aren't progressing? Is AI going to write the next languages? I feel you've probably got some insights, but given you were saying about how many hours, I am going to...
I don't want to suck the oxygen out of the room.
Given what you said before, I am going to hand over to you first, though.
Okay. What we have seen over the last decade, excluding AI, is the rate of change of the set of mainstream languages, this is very careful wording, has slowed. Most people are using languages from the 20th century. There is a minor exception, well done C# for getting in on the year 2000, which I do regard as the 21st century, and TypeScript. And it's not that there aren't new languages, but if you look at their rate of adoption, it is massively low compared to an equivalent point in the 1990s and 1980s. By the time C++ was officially 10 years old, I'd already been using it for a number of years. It was a top 5 language. By the time Java was 5 years old, it was a top 5, top 10 language in the enterprise. There is no language that has been developed in the last 10 years that is even close to breaking the top 10. It's just not a thing. And if we look at it, the dominant languages, they are primarily millennial languages, actually, as in that's when they were born. And that was the period of greatest growth of software development. Late 80s into the 90s, there was a point of inflection in terms of how much software was being written. And you always write in the tools that are available. Oh, there's new languages. Don't get me wrong, there are new languages before somebody says, but I use Go. Yes, Go is now 17 years old. It can almost vote. But I use Rust. First commit of Rust was 2012. It's in secondary school now. The point there is these are not young. These languages that people are saying new. So what we're seeing is that the whole thing has been moving really, really slowly. And I haven't even mentioned AI. That's just the sheer mass of existing skills, tool chains. You cannot throw away the tool chains. And that's what, when you start looking at AI, what's it really good at? Well, it's well educated on an awful lot of ecosystems. Why would you throw that away? But then that also tells you, why would you then change it? So now you throw AI into the mix and it decelerates the deceleration even further. So what you're finding is we live in a period of paradox, is that the set of mainstream languages is moving, its mobility is reducing. In terms of feature addition, they're basically adding the same set of features. That doesn't mean they're the same, but they are adding. If you go back and look at a shopping list of everything that the top languages have added in the last 10 or 15 years, it's remarkably similar. And they are still adding them, but people are using them and they are less interested because that doesn't matter as much. So what you're going to have is that we're just going to stick primarily with what we've got. A few new things will pop up. In fact, we have this paradox. There are more programming languages being created now than at any time before because it's never been easier. Because before breakfast, you can create a new language. But that tells you about the shape of the long tail. There's a really consolidated core that is our infrastructure. It's the side of the road you drive on. It's the tarmac on the road. And then there's all these wonderful innovations. And if anything happens, occasionally one of those may cross over, or people will borrow features. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Kathleen Dolan. C# went to Functional's house, and it said, these are nice, and it broke in, and it left everything it took everything except monads. It basically said, no, we're not going to have those, but pattern matching, we like the look of that. And that's pretty much what every mainstream language has done. So the long tail is going to influence by feature, but not by actual direct adoption. And so I get occasionally people saying, yeah, but Kevlin, the language doesn't matter now. I could use anything. Yes, because the language doesn't matter now, you won't use anything. That's how humans work. We have the whole history of economics to teach us this. It means some people experiment more freely, but they are a smaller percentage. So we're kind of on the tracks that we're already on. And AI-created language, I think, is an interesting area. And I've kind of been poking and prodding around this a little bit. It's not obvious that that's going to be a big win at this point, given the state of the incumbent. There's some really interesting ideas, but again, interesting idea does not mean popular, wide-scale adoption. That's a sheer face on the adoption thing, and you have to have a very good reason to do something different. So yeah, there are languages that might be ideal, but LLMs, as we all know, are incredibly capable. You can throw pretty much anything into an LLM and it will do something fairly competent with it, and the competence increases with time. So yeah, that's where it's at. Ignore what Elon's saying.
Yeah, I agree with a large amount of that. I think one of the reasons, say, a team wouldn't switch from one language to another before was the effort that it takes to get over that initial hump of you can see a benefit on the other side, but we're stuck with this because this is where we started and I can't justify it. That's shrinking and not really becoming an option now. So, if you want to port a system from one language to another, that's completely doable now, providing you have everything you need to validate that what you've done is correct. I think that offers a set of freedoms where if you find that you're not in the language that is optimal for the particular characteristics of the thing that you're trying to build, that's now a two-way door and you can flip. Or you could try multiple languages and see which one performs best. So we've got the option to experiment more, which I think is interesting. In my team, I think we're generally split on which way we think it's going to go with languages in terms of we're going to build more languages, drop down to assembler, or stick with what we've got. My personal take is I think there's value in having the abstractions that a language brings, and at the minute the LLMs can benefit from that because they like to form abstractions, simplify it, and that simplifies their context window, which is helpful for them. And some languages are easier to work with than others in terms of the simplicity of their syntax, their structure, and how they model the world. So I think there's value in that as well.
So the question was about learning new languages, I think. It's been a while.
Apologies.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to answer the question or not. But if we're going to become systems engineers, we're going to have to understand the output of AI. So we're going to have to understand the language it's written in. So if you're building a website, you're going to have to understand as a system engineer the CSS, the HTML, the JavaScript, the TypeScript, C#, or the PHP, and you're going to have to understand the databases. So in that context, you're going to have to understand more. And if you want to move from web development, say, to microcontroller development, you're going to have to move into C++ potentially. So you are going to have to learn new languages that way. And how, if you're just starting, you've got to learn the language then to understand what's coming out as well. As a junior, as an apprentice, you have to understand to be able to evaluate the output of AI. So I think there's still a value in learning new languages. I think languages, because of how LLMs work, will start to congregate around, and we're already seeing that, a preferred thing in open source, C#, whatever it is.
I want to add to it. There has not been new languages, but I think given the popularity of Python and LLMs, I think a lot of new libraries have been invented. A lot of new libraries have been put to the open source, because every time I open Python, I'm like, oh, there's something new there. Something new about AI, something new to support machine learning. But as a new graduate, again, I would say the fundamentals are still there. I've still learned about C, Linux, whether it might be about computer architecture, system designing. I think those are very core fundamentals. Even if you do want to vibe code, you don't want to code at all, these are the things that you should always remember, because otherwise you don't know what actually is going on with your computer.
I was trying to go back to where you started with that question, is that maybe with the evolving of AI tools like this, it's the point where we can actually deliver on the promise that was made by BDD, behaviour-driven development. In 5, 10, however many years, maybe we are just looking at the spec and we just don't care. And at the moment, we're really concerned that if I write something in C or Java and I compile it down, I'll always get the same assembler, IL, whatever. That's not true with LLM. But maybe we'll stop caring about that because the whole of the ecosystem's got trustworthy enough, which is just sort of echoing back on things you already said. So I think the short-term answer is yes, we care. The longer-term answer, I don't think we care. But I'm retiring soon, so...
I'm just going to push back on one of the answers then. Sorry, Rachel, but I don't think we do need to understand HTML, CSS and all these languages. And I'm finding more and more I don't have to. It's like, for example, one of the apps I've been building, vibe coding, air quotes, the fitness app on my phone. I wanted a companion app on my watch, a Garmin watch. It used something called Monkey Code or something similar like that. I've not even looked at the code. I don't need to understand that, but it works perfectly. So I think more and more, I'm also kind of aware that there's going to be a subset of developers that are saying, I need to review every code, I need to understand it. They're going to get completely left behind by people that aren't developers who are building apps left, right and centre and accelerating ahead. So I don't know whether we're doing ourselves any favours by saying, okay, we're going to review every single line of code, we're going to be so careful. As long as we're writing, as I mentioned before, because we are system developers, so we think about all these different components. If we think about the test coverage, the guardrails to make sure it's doing what we want, if we make sure it's going kind of being steered in the right direction, and also we're like every 6 months, the story's changing completely with AI. It's like now, it's kind of like 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been saying the same thing. Now, most of my code's been written by Claude. It's just doing and it works. It's far better than I could have done. It's going back to your point earlier about debugging and stuff. I find that because I point my agent at like Grafana MCP, and so it's got all the logs, the traces, my code as well, and it's got the context of what the issue is. I don't even have to debug and investigate anymore because it's going in this agentic loop, and I just say this isn't working. It explores the code, it explores the logs and metrics and everything. Its working memory is 1 billion times better than mine. And it's just absolutely incredible. So the rate of acceleration is insane. So we've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to do a very super quick lightning round. Maybe we haven't got time for this question, but if everyone could be super quick, what advice would you give to new people getting into the industry?
Build muscle memory about how to code because you still need it for now, and also use the agents.
Welcome. Come on in. The water is fine.
I would say find your nearest senior person and work with AI with them, so that like pair programming with AI tools rather than us all just doing it on our own. Let's learn from each other how to use these tools well.
Embrace your inner toddler. Just go and push and pull and see what happens. Keep experimenting.
Remember your fundamentals, they're always necessary.
Wash your hands.
My one will be to embrace AI, get it to build stuff, but then stop once it's built it and say to the agent, teach me one level at a time what you've just done. So just go through the basics, ask me questions, make sure I understand it, then go the next level up from complexity. It is amazing at doing that because it will start and it will quiz you, it'll ask you where you want to go, and it becomes just this really good conversation where it will make sure that you understand that topic, what it's built deeply. So AI is such a great way of learning as well. So I'm afraid, everyone, we are out of time, but I just want to say a massive thank you to the panel and a massive thank you to the audience. Can I have a big round of applause? And also a big thank you to DDD South West for hosting the podcast.
Why do I get snatched?